Another question here: how do you mine grammar structures, basically?
Ooh, good question. Yeah, a couple different ways to think about this. Grammar is inherently abstract. The way we think about like grammar rules they are abstractions of language, and so it can sometimes be hard to even identify what the grammar is. And that's where we think grammar priming is quite useful, where you just like read a little bit about grammar and you'll notice things like, oh right, that's the thing. As you're immersing, we would definitely recommend having a grammar reference that you can search through in order to look up unknown things. But that requires a certain level of the language already that you can identify those things and then find them.
It also requires that to exist for the language that you're learning.
Yeah, you need to. There are reference grammars in most languages, but a lot of them are textbooks. They're not like websites that you can search through.
They're also not usually for learners.
Yeah, they're not usually for learners. They're for like either linguists or more academic pursuits. And I know that like I pulled up a Spanish reference grammar a while ago, and I found it useful, but I sent it to Ben, and he's like, "This is terrible. I can't use this at all."
We were trying to look for the exact same thing. I could not find it, and Ethan found it in 10 seconds.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know how you did that.
Yeah, so you have to understand how these things are going to describe the information, and that's a very academic thing. And so you got to find a tool that's actually going to jive with the way that you think about the language. What I actually think is where grammar becomes much more interesting is when you start writing. Because if you write something and then you get it corrected, you have an opportunity to see your own misunderstanding of how grammar is used. And you can pinpoint those issues and you can go learn about those things in particular. And you can either ask a native about it or you can have a native send you an article about it. And that's where, in my opinion, grammar study actually becomes just much more interesting. I'm dealing with the subjunctive right now because subjunctive is something that in English we merge subjunctive with another tense. And so it is... in Spanish, they're split out. And there are many, many different cases where the subjunctive can arise. And they aren't necessarily logical. Some of them are just like, it's a list of things that you need to know trigger the subjunctive. And there are some of those things on the list that like, I just don't know or I didn't pay attention to. And there are times when I try the subjunctive and I'm like, that actually was not supposed to be the subjunctive. But it's a perfect opportunity for me to really pinpoint the errors in my own understanding of the way the language works and then have somebody correct me on it. And that to me is where grammar becomes very, very interesting and useful to study.
Yeah, I want to really quickly go back to the main question, which is how to mine grammar.
Oh, okay, sure.
That response of like mining your own stuff where you go, this is where I messed up, this is the correct thing, I'll save that. That's great. But the other thing that's kind of simple just for me is if I'm looking at a sentence and I know the words, but I get it wrong, like with the meaning, if I like look it up on translation or something like that, I'll just save it, right? Because that's essentially an assumption that there's something that I'm missing on the sentence. Either there's another sense of a word or it's a grammar piece. I will usually only save it if when I look at the translation, I go, oh, rather than going, what? Because that's probably not ready for. That's also just how I tend to mine it early on when I'm not outputting.
Yeah, that's generally a good perspective to have, not just with grammar, but with really anything. If you're looking at a sentence and you know all the words in the sentence and you still don't understand it, that is a great sentence to save because there is something in there that is causing you problems. And the same thing if you're listening to a sentence and you like can't hear it properly and then you read the sentence and you're like, oh, I actually understand this. It shows that there is this one thing that is broken where you are not connecting the sounds of the language to the actual text. And that thing could be, as Ben mentioned, it could be grammar, it could be context, it could be an idiom, or it could be a different word sense. So pinpointing those gaps in your knowledge where you should, in theory, understand everything, but you still don't, is a great area of the language to mine.
Hey, as you know, there's a lot of language learning advice out there, which can make it kind of overwhelming and difficult to actually get going on your own learning. If you feel like you're struggling to figure out language learning, you're not alone. It's an extremely complicated process with tons of different steps. If you're looking for a step-by-step guide to create the perfect language learning routine for you, then you have to check out our new course. We spent thousands of hours designing a simple and straightforward process that you can use to create your own personalized language routine that actually works. We understand that every learner is different and that you have to roll with the punches and adapt. Every day for 30 days, I walk you through everything you need to know to build an effective learning routine, no matter your circumstances. We give you the advice and resources you need to ensure your success, so you don't have to waste time looking for stuff to do and can focus on learning. And if any questions do come up, don't worry. We are always there to answer any questions and clear up confusion. And it's all backed by our 90-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. If, for whatever reason, something's not quite working for you, we insist you get every penny back. It's time for you to stop wishing that you could learn a second language. It's time to become the master of your language learning journey. Check out the link below to get instant access and start your journey today.